Have you ever lain in bed at night, after a day full of work, messages, meetings, and suddenly, when the room grows silent, a feeling rises inside you that you can hardly name? A hollow emptiness, a quiet pause so frightening you dare not look at it. It whispers inside you, "I am wasting my life." That feeling is not loud. It is quiet but persistent, like a ghost. You can cover it up in the daytime by working harder, meeting more people, setting more goals. But when night falls, when there is nothing left to distract you, the emptiness returns, knocking on your chest. Maybe you have called it anxiety. Maybe a doctor called it depression and gave you small pills. One in the morning, one at night. Over time, you get used to swallowing them, like a ritual of survival. And day by day, you learn to numb the pain you were meant to listen to. But pause for a moment. Imagine that this pain is not a mistake. It is not something you must erase, but a call. A sign that something in your life has drifted away from your true self, like a wound that aches only to tell you the body needs healing. In the same way, the soul is knocking, reminding you that this life does not nourish you. Yet society does not teach you to listen to that call. On the contrary, from childhood you were taught to stay quiet, to adapt, to look fine, not to disturb, not to cause trouble. So you learn to hide your suffering so well that sometimes you even fooled yourself into believing you were okay. Others see you as busy, productive, goal-oriented, and the world applauds. But inside, you are withering away little by little. This pain, in its simplest language, is the cry of an abandoned soul. It is like a child standing in the dark, waiting for you to return and hold it. But you keep running in circles of duty, work, and expectation, until you can no longer remember what you once longed for. You only know you must keep going, keep going, keep going. There are moments you sit alone in a cafe, watching others talk and laugh, and for a second you feel like you are standing outside of life. Your body is there, but your soul drifts somewhere far away. Sometimes people tell you, this is just a phase, it will pass. But a part of you knows it will not pass. Because it is not a phase, it is a sign. The more you ignore it, the heavier it becomes. It turns into sleepless nights, tightness in your chest, moments of panic without clear reason. And again, you run to the doctor, repeat the usual process, list your symptoms in 15 minutes, receive a prescription, and step back into the machine. But be honest with yourself. Do those pills heal the emptiness? Do they give you a reason to wake up in the morning? Or do they simply help you forget for a while, numb you, so you can keep functioning as a quiet gear in the world's machine? Here is the bitter paradox. You are praised for enduring well. You are seen as strong when you keep working, keep performing, keep smiling online. But no one asks you, are you truly living? People only care whether you are still functioning, as if your worth lies in your ability to keep producing, keep contributing, keep playing your role. Deep down, you know something is wrong. You know there is a wide gap between the life you are living and the life you were meant to live. But that gap terrifies you, because it demands that you stop and listen. And listening means facing the truth that you are living a life that is not your own. Many spend their youth chasing paths chosen by parents, society, or culture. They pick careers not out of love, but for stability. They enter relationships not out of true connection, but out of fear of loneliness or fear of being different. They tick boxes on lists of goals that were never theirs in the first place. Then one day, the soul begins to speak. It can no longer endure. It screams in silence. And if you will not listen, it forces your body to speak instead, through anxiety, through crisis, through a tiredness with no name. Perhaps you have tried many times to silence that call. You tell yourself, just hold on a little longer, just endure a few more years. Then everything will be fine. But deep inside you know, fine will never come, because the problem is not time. It is the fundamental misalignment. You have abandoned yourself, and that is why you feel you are wasting your life. Not because you are lazy, not because you are not good enough, not because you are sick, but because you have strayed too far from your true path. You have been swept into a life someone else wanted for you instead of listening to what your soul needs. There is a frightening truth. If you keep going like this, one day you will feel nothing at all. No pain, no joy, only a long numbness. People call it growing up, but in truth, it is only the slow death of the soul. But you are not here to die quietly. You are here to live. And the pain you feel, the emptiness that eats at you, is the reminder that your soul is still there, waiting for you to return. So the question is no longer, how do I silence this voice? The question is, if I dare to listen, what will happen? This is the beginning of a real journey. A journey that is not easy, because it demands that you remove the masks, the roles, the burdens you have carried for so long. But it is the only journey that can save you from the feeling that you are only existing. And in the moment you stop and listen, you will touch an even more painful truth, that the whole world around you has taught you to live wrongly from the start. Because when you begin to question, one question rises. If I feel this far from myself, then who or what has led me to live a life that is not mine? There is a bitter irony in the way we are raised. We are taught to obey before we ever learn how to listen to ourselves. From the earliest days we are trained to please, to adapt, to blend in with the crowd. We memorize unwritten rules. Do not disturb. Do not express too much. Do not stand out. We grow up in a world that cares only about whether you can keep functioning. Can you study well, work hard, fulfill your duties, keep the great machine of society running smoothly? If yes, you will be seen as fine. You will be praised, celebrated. But if you dare to pause and ask, am I truly living? You are instantly seen as a troublemaker. This is the great paradox of modern life. A person may be called successful, while inside they are withering day by day. A person may shine brightly in the light, but in the dark they are exhausted, empty, unable to recognize themselves. Perhaps you have felt this. When everyone around you praises your achievements, but inside you feel a strange sense of loss. When you look in the mirror and see a smiling face but cannot feel your own presence. When you cross another goal off your list, and instead of joy, you feel like another piece of your soul has slipped away. Society teaches us to suppress our pain and calls it adaptation. But the price of that adaptation is an invisible wound, the wound of being cut off from your true self. You learn to hide your hunger, your fears, your unanswered questions. You wear a perfect mask so others can feel reassured that you are fine. But behind that mask lies a vast emptiness no one can see. Some try to fill it with work, diving into tasks as if productivity could replace real life. Some seek shallow relationships so they will not appear alone. Some drown in parties, alcohol, substances, or endless entertainment just to escape the quiet call within. But all of it is only temporary pain relief, because the more you run, the louder that voice becomes. The world around you will almost never encourage you to stop and listen to your soul. Because once you begin asking questions, you discover a hard truth. Society does not need you to be authentic. Society only needs you to be efficient. It needs you to keep functioning, keep creating external value, even if you are collapsing inside. You can see this clearly in how the system treats mental pain. If you are sad, lost, empty, the most common advice is, do not think about it. Just keep going. It will pass. Or you are handed a prescription so your body can endure a little longer. But the pain does not disappear. It only sinks deeper. And this very denial creates the sickness of our age. People who look successful but inside are slowly falling apart. One haunting image is of a house that looks bright and solid from the outside, but whose foundation is rotting within. Everyone admires the outside beauty, but a small storm could bring it all down. Modern humans are the same. We are encouraged to decorate the surface, but forbidden to face the cracks within. This is why many only begin the journey back to themselves when they hit rock bottom. When pretending no longer holds, when work can no longer hide the emptiness, when shallow relationships can no longer soothe the loneliness, when pills and distractions no longer numb the pain. It is a terrifying moment, but also the most important. When the mask begins to crack and the truth forces its way out. When you can no longer lie to yourself that you are okay. This is not easy to accept. It means admitting that for a long time you have lived by someone else's script. You have obeyed, sacrificed, worked hard to be seen as right, as successful, and now you realize none of it belongs to you. That pain is so intense that many choose to turn away. They put the mask back on, return to the busyness, return to safe pretending, because sometimes living a lie feels easier than living the truth. But deep down, they know they are betraying themselves. This betrayal is the root of many modern mental illnesses. It is not personal weakness. It is a social mechanism, a way the world is built to keep the machine running. And for that very reason, it is more dangerous. Because when an entire culture treats self-denial as normal, anyone who dares to be real will always be seen as abnormal. If you listen closely, you will notice this in everyday life. When someone confesses they are tired, immediately, someone tells them to be grateful they still have work. When someone admits they cannot find meaning, they are told they are selfish, that they must think of their family, their duties. Every cry for help, every sign of pain is framed as weakness to be eliminated, and so the cycle continues. People hide their pain, the world applauds, and the soul screams louder in silence. But what happens if one day you can no longer endure? If one day you let go, not to run away, but to admit you have been living wrong? In that moment, everything changes. Because when you start listening, you discover the pain is not your enemy. It is a signal. It is the voice from your deepest self calling you back. This courage to face the truth is the first step of healing. A hard journey, because it resists not only your habits, but an entire culture. But it is the only journey that can save you from the numbness waiting ahead. And then a quiet question rises inside you. If I truly stop, if I truly listen, can I still go on living the old way? Or will I begin to see that from childhood I have been led by a script that was never mine? Because when you realize this truth, another pain emerges. Perhaps this entire culture, this entire society, never wanted you to find yourself. And it is there, in that place, that the deepest suffering begins. Perhaps never in history have human beings been surrounded by so much comfort and so many opportunities. We have advanced technology, information just a touch away, endless entertainment, and 1,000 choices that past generations could never have dreamed of. And yet, ironically, never before has the soul felt so alone. Have you noticed this? The more we have to fill our days, the emptier we become inside. We can spend hours scrolling through social media, through smiling faces and perfect images. But the more we look, the more we feel something missing. Maybe in that very moment, we realize a painful truth. An entire culture has been built not to help us find ourselves, but to make us forget ourselves. From childhood, we are handed a ready-made script. Go to school, get high grades, choose a safe and stable career, earn enough money to prove you are worthy, then marry, have children, buy a house, buy a car, post smiling pictures so everyone knows you are happy. And along the way, we learn to hide every sign of fatigue or doubt. No one asks us, what truly makes your heart come alive? No one teaches us to listen to our intuition, or to ask, why am I here, and what gives my life meaning? Instead, we are taught to compete, to win, to become someone society will accept. Do you feel that absence? The absence of real conversations. The absence of permission to be vulnerable, to be not okay, to ask what is true. We grow up in a world that prizes appearances but abandons essence. People celebrate achievements but rarely ask about the soul. This is why so many, though fulfilled by society's standards, feel a gnawing emptiness inside. They have followed the path exactly, done everything expected of them, yet they still feel they are living someone else's life. Maybe you too have had that moment. You wake up one morning, look around your home, your steady job, the things you own, and suddenly wonder, is this really my life? It is the most dangerous question because it cracks the wall you have built for years. But from that crack, the first light enters. And if that moment has ever touched you, know this: you are not alone. Millions have felt it, though most remain silent. Because this society does not like questions. It likes smooth functioning. But in sharing, in empathy, people like you find one another. Maybe right now you need one small action to affirm that you are here, that you are listening to the voice inside. Sometimes it is just a quiet nod, a small comment, a silent whisper. I have felt this too. Because the truth is, we begin to break the silence only when we dare to speak, even if only in a whisper. Think about this. If you remain silent, society will keep running as it always has, and your soul will remain abandoned. But if you begin to reach out, even in a small way, you have already chosen a different path. You have begun the journey back to yourself. The modern world is skilled at making us doubt ourselves. It tells us that if we are unhappy, the fault is ours. It teaches us to believe that anxiety, restlessness, emptiness are disorders to be fixed, never admitting that perhaps the environment itself The system itself is the real sickness. Look around you. How many people smile on the outside but collapse inside? How many live up to every standard but each night feel strangers to themselves? How many are celebrated as successful but know deep down they are only existing? This is not weakness. It is the consequence of a society afraid of the human soul, a society afraid of authenticity. Because authenticity is hard to control. People connected to themselves are unpredictable, impossible to manipulate, and no longer follow ready-made scripts. So, we are encouraged to live in illusion, a beautiful mask, a perfect resume, a shining social profile. But deep down, we know the price of that perfection is our true self. Here, the truth stands exposed. The soul will not endure betrayal forever. You can ignore it for a while, but sooner or later, it demands a price. Maybe through endless anxiety, maybe through exhaustion, maybe through an emptiness nothing can fill. This is the soul shouting, "This life is not mine. You have betrayed me." And then you face a hard choice. Continue wearing the mask, continue pretending, continue living the script you were given, or dare to step out of it and find your true self. That choice is not easy. It means facing everything you have denied, the memories you suppressed, the emotions you pushed aside, the dark corners of yourself you tried to hide. But within that very journey, a new path begins to open. The path of individuation, because to find yourself, you must do more than stop and listen. You must step into the very place you fear most, the place where your rejected parts and your hidden shadows are still waiting to be seen. There comes a moment in life when you must stop and face yourself. You can no longer pretend that everything is fine. You can no longer escape into work, into relationships, or into distractions. That is the moment when the mask begins to crack. And through that crack, the darkness seeps out. But darkness is not a stranger. It has always been there, silently walking with you in every step. It is the anger you swallowed when you were treated unfairly. It is the envy you denied when you saw someone else succeed. It is the secret desires you never admitted because you feared being judged. All the things you pushed away, all the parts you buried deep in your mind, have gathered into a shadow you call not me. But the truth is, they are still you. The journey of becoming yourself does not begin with becoming better. It begins with facing everything you once rejected. This is the first step of individuation, the process of no longer living as a reflection of others' expectations, but becoming who you truly are. And to do that, you must dare to step into the darkness. Imagine an old room you locked away long ago. You never dared to open it, afraid of what you might find inside. But the longer you wait, the more dust and mold spread, creeping into even the brighter rooms of the house. In the end, if the house is to survive, you must go back, open that door, and face what has been left behind. The soul is the same. Facing the darkness is not easy. It makes you ashamed, because you must admit you too have selfishness, low desires, raw instincts you once denied. It makes you hurt, because much of the darkness holds your unhealed wounds, the repressed memories of childhood, the moments you were hurt so deeply you had to hide them just to survive. And yet, here lies the paradox. The very parts you rejected hold the key to healing. When you dare to face your anger, you learn your boundaries. When you admit your envy, you see the true desires you have been suppressing. When you face your shame, you begin to feel your own human fragility and discover compassion for yourself. Carl Jung once wrote, "Those who look outside dream. Those who look inside awaken." To look inside means to see both darkness and light. Only when you accept both can you truly awaken. But society never taught us this. Society encourages us to build a perfect image, moral, acceptable, easy to approve. That means pushing the darkness further and further away. But darkness never disappears. It finds other ways to show itself. It creeps into your behavior, makes you lash out without reason, traps you in the same toxic relationships again and again, leaves you haunted by fears you cannot explain. And you ask yourself, why does this keep happening to me? The answer lies in the shadow. Until you recognize it and integrate it, it will continue to control you. This is why individuation is painful, but also liberating. It does not make you perfect. It makes you real. No more hiding, no more splitting yourself apart, no more masks to please others. You begin to be yourself, whole, both light and shadow. This does not mean letting the shadow control you. It means by acknowledging it and bringing it into yourself, you take back your power. Like a wild animal, the more it is caged, the more violent it becomes. But once it is recognized and tamed, it turns into strength. Anger can become the force to protect yourself. Envy can become inspiration to discover your true dreams. Shame can transform into kindness and understanding. This is the deep transformation that the shadow brings. It turns you from someone divided into someone whole, from someone who lives in fear into someone who lives in truth. Of course, this path is not straight. There are nights you will cry in despair, feeling as if you are falling apart. There are days you will want to return to the old mask, where it was less painful, where people still believed you were fine. But in those very moments, real change is happening. Because you are no longer running, you are looking into the mirror. And even if the reflection shows parts that terrify you, you stay. And one day, something remarkable happens. You begin to feel lighter, freer, more alive. Not because you erased the darkness, but because you accepted it as part of you. You no longer fight yourself. And in that harmony, you find a new strength, the strength of truth. When you walk this path, everything begins to shift. The way you choose work, the way you love, the way you face pain, all of it carries a different quality. You no longer try to avoid suffering. You begin to see its value. Because you understand, only through the darkness does the light become clear. And perhaps, in the very moment you dare to face the darkness, you also touch the real disease of our age, a deep emptiness, a loss of meaning that no medicine can cure. Because once you have faced your shadow, you realize a greater pain, that it is not only your wounds, but a collective wound, a silent epidemic of modern times, the loss of meaning. There is a truth that is hard to admit. In a world full of comfort and abundance, the human soul is falling into a deep crisis. People call it depression, anxiety, burnout. But if we look closer, we find a common thread: emptiness. Imagine a morning when you open your eyes in your own room. You may have a steady job, a nice home, relationships that others might envy. Yet, as you step out of bed, a quiet question rises inside. All of this, does it mean anything? That question is not loud, not harsh. It is like a small crack running across the floor, growing longer and deeper each day. You keep walking over it, pretending it is not there. But one day, the entire ground beneath you will collapse. People today are not exhausted only because they work too much. They are exhausted because they do not know why they are working at all. We are not drained only by pressure, but by living a life stripped of meaning, like a boat drifting endlessly at sea, rowing and rowing with no real shore ahead. Have you ever sat in an office, surrounded by the clatter of keyboards and the cold glow of neon lights, and suddenly felt as if you were drifting inside a strange dream? Have you ever smiled in a group photo, only to realize later that the eyes staring back were not the eyes of someone truly alive? We often try to cover this emptiness with new goals, a new car, a new trip, a higher degree, a new relationship. But soon the excitement fades, and the emptiness grows even larger. Jung observed that his patients often came to him in despair, but what transformed them was not medicine or material success. It was the moment they discovered a reason to live. When a person has a why, they can endure almost anyhow. But without meaning, even joy itself feels hollow. We are living in an epidemic of meaninglessness. People chase success, but feel empty. They achieve what they wanted, only to realize it was never what their soul needed. They live in crowded, noisy cities, but inside, they are like lonely islands. Notice this. The tiredness you carry is not only physical, it is the weariness of a soul that cannot find its home. You can sleep 10 hours and still wake heavy. You can take long vacations and still return exhausted, because what is missing is not rest, it is meaning. This is the silent illness of our age. People search for escape and temporary pleasures, shopping, entertainment, short-lived romances, endless distractions. But it is like pouring water into a leaking jar. The more you pour, the more it drains away. The thirst remains. If you listen closely, your body is already speaking. Headaches with no reason, tightness in the chest, sleepless nights that will not end. These are signals that your soul is demanding something deeper. But the modern world quickly hands you a pill, a treatment, just enough to keep you quiet and moving. But is that really living? Or is it just a prolonged existence in numbness? The most painful thing is not loss. It is living a life you know is not your own. A life full by outer standards, but empty by inner ones. And it is this split that makes the soul wither. You see, we can deceive others with beautiful images. We can deceive society with bright achievements. But we cannot deceive our soul. It knows when we are betraying it. And once the soul begins to speak, nothing can silence it forever. Many try to ignore it. They whisper to themselves, "This is just temporary." But year after year, the temporary becomes permanent. And one day they realize, a whole life has passed, and they never truly lived. Perhaps what makes us suffer most is not lack of possessions, but lack of direction. Without meaning, even abundance becomes a burden. Without a reason to live, even beautiful moments lose their color. And here, the great question appears. How do we find meaning again? How do we escape the endless cycle of emptiness? The answer is not outside. It is not in a new job, a new title, a new relationship. It lies deep within in the unconscious, where forgotten parts of you still wait, where the missing pieces of your soul remain. For there, your soul has already left clues about what makes life worth living. And when we dare to listen to that voice, we realize the unconscious is not the enemy. It is a black mirror reflecting the truths we have long avoided. And within that reflection, the key to healing begins to appear. There are moments when you ask yourself, why do I keep repeating the same circle? Why do I fall in love with the same kind of person, even when I know the ending will hurt? Why do I sabotage myself again and again right before success? Why do I fear things my mind knows are harmless? These questions are not answered on the surface. They live in a deeper place, a place we often avoid because it holds what we do not want to face. That place is the unconscious. Imagine the unconscious as a black mirror. It does not reflect the image you want to see, but the image of who you truly are. Forgotten memories, unhealed wounds, repressed desires, all of them are hidden there. And that mirror remains even if you turn away. Jung once wrote, "What you do not bring to consciousness returns as fate. What you deny, what you pretend does not exist, returns in the form of destiny." It may appear as toxic relationships, vague fears, or painful patterns repeating again and again. You may believe you are unlucky, or that life is unfair. But perhaps it is only your unconscious whispering, "You have not seen me yet." The unconscious is not only a box of shadows, it also holds the beautiful parts you abandoned, creativity, courage, the pure dreams of your childhood. But to reach them, you must first pass through the dark. You must open the dusty boxes you locked long ago. Perhaps you have had a strange dream, a dream with no logic, but one that left you with a powerful feeling. These dreams are the voice of the unconscious. They speak not in logic, but in symbols, images, emotions. A wolf chasing you, a dark room with no exit, a road that leads to the sea. Each is a fragment, a message, an invitation to decode. The unconscious also speaks through the body. A sudden ache, a vague anxiety, a sadness with no clear cause. These are signs that your soul is asking to be heard. But instead of asking, "What is this trying to tell me?" we silence it. With a pill, with a drink, with a party. And so the signals grow louder. The frightening thing about the unconscious is not that it exists, but that it directs your life when you are unaware. It is like an invisible hand on the wheel. You think you are choosing, but often you are only replaying old scripts. For example, someone who grew up without love may spend their life drawn to cold relationships, simply because their unconscious knows that feeling too well. Someone who was mocked for failing may avoid opportunities forever, because their unconscious fears repeating the wound. The choices you call habit or fate may only be your unconscious steering you. But here is the miracle. The unconscious is not your enemy. It is simply the part of you that waits to be seen. Once you bring light to it, what once was a burden can become strength. This path is not simple. It asks you to learn a new language, the language of symbols, of feelings, of art. Because the unconscious does not speak reason. It speaks in images and emotions. When you keep a dream journal, when you draw something shapeless, when you sit in silence and allow feelings to rise, you are speaking to the unconscious. Remember this. The unconscious does not come to harm you. It comes to remind you that you are incomplete, that you are not yet whole. It comes to reveal the missing pieces, the parts without which you will always feel lost. And each time you dare to face it, a part of you is reborn. Like the shadow, the unconscious holds both fear and salvation. It may shake you when you face it, but it may also open doors to a clarity you never imagined. And the more light you bring into it, the less you are controlled by it. Perhaps the most important lesson of the unconscious is this: you cannot run forever. What you refuse to face will return as fate, but what you dare to face will return as strength. Think about this. The anxiety you feel may not be your enemy, but a message that you are lost. The sadness pressing on you may only be a sign that one part of you must die so another can be born. What you call failure may in truth be the doorway to what is real. And then one day you realize the unconscious is no longer a terrifying place. It becomes your second home, a home once locked, but now opened, a place where you find both shadow and light. And in that union, you are no longer divided, but whole. Yet one final barrier remains, the greatest one of all, the fear of change. Even when you know, even when you hear the call, you may still hesitate. Because to truly live, you must leave the safety of the old shell, the mask that has protected you for so long. And that is more frightening than any pain. In the end, this journey brings you to an unavoidable crossroad. Either continue living in familiar numbness or dare to step into awakening. And in that choice, your life is decided. There comes a moment in life you can no longer postpone. It does not arrive with a loud bell or someone pointing the way. It comes quietly. Perhaps one morning you look in the mirror and see a familiar face, but the eyes have lost their light. Perhaps it is a sleepless night when you realize you have spent too long trying to become someone you never were. Or perhaps it is just an ordinary day when, out of nowhere, a question strikes your heart. Who am I really living for? And how much longer before I begin living for myself? This is the threshold. And from that threshold, there are only two paths. One is to keep living the same way, to repeat, to pretend everything is fine, to let the unconscious keep steering, to remain just another part of the machine. That path is safe, familiar, but numb. The other path is harder. It is the path of awakening. Awakening is not a grand moment, not a sudden flash of blinding light. It is a series of small but courageous choices. The choice to stop instead of run. The choice to be honest instead of pretend. The choice to let go instead of cling. And most of all, the choice to listen to your soul, even when it leads you down roads others will never understand. You will face the fear of loss. The loss of a job that no longer nourishes you. The loss of relationships that have turned into endurance rather than love. The loss of the mask society once praised. But you will also find something far more valuable. Truth. Truth does not promise you an easy life. In fact, it often leaves you lonelier, because not everyone is ready to live honestly. But in that loneliness, you meet yourself again. You begin to see more clearly, to hear your inner voice more distinctly. And slowly, you no longer need validation from the outside world. Imagine this. Once you live authentically, you no longer feel chained to pleasing everyone. You no longer compare, compete, or try to prove your worth. Because your worth is no longer borrowed from the outside. It comes from your full presence within. You may lose things you once thought you could not live without. But in those losses, you regain something far older, something more precious. Yourself. Jung once said, "The greatest privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That is the highest privilege, yet it is a road few dare to walk. Because to become yourself, you must leave behind everything that is not you. And that is painful. It is fierce. It asks you to release what you thought you could never let go of. Yet when you dare to walk it, a new strength rises within. You discover your soul has been waiting for you all along. It never left. It only waited patiently for your return. And when you return, it gives you back what you had lost. The joy of living, the spark of creativity, the deep connection to life itself. Perhaps you wonder, how will I know when I have truly begun to live? The answer is simple. You will know when you wake up in the morning, and instead of asking, "Why must I keep going?" you feel the quiet relief of, "I want to live today." You will know when even in pain, you sense meaning. When even in difficulty, You glimpse a light of truth. This does not make you superhuman. It does not make you immune to suffering. On the contrary, you will feel pain more clearly because you no longer hide from it. But along with pain, you will feel joy more vividly, love more deeply, and life more fully. You will come alive, and here lies the greatest difference. You will no longer waste your life. Each day, even with its challenges, belongs to you. You are no longer a side character in someone else's script. You are the author and the main character of your own story. Many around you may not understand. They may call you strange, different, even selfish, but they do not need to understand, because you are no longer living to please them. You are living to be true to yourself, and that is real freedom. In the end, the choice is yours. You can continue as before, safe, familiar, but empty. Or you can choose awakening, risky, painful, but filled with meaning. No one can choose for you. So ask yourself, how much longer will you give to pretending? How many more years will you repeat the same numbness? How many more moments will you let pass without truly living? Perhaps the answer has been inside you all along. You have heard it before, sometimes as a whisper, sometimes as a shout, and it will not disappear until you respond. So be brave enough to ask yourself, what must I let go of in order to truly live? Perhaps it is a lie you still cling to. Perhaps it is a relationship long dead. Perhaps it is a job that drains your soul. Or perhaps it is only the habit of pretending to be fine. Whatever it is, remember this. The first step does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be real. All it takes is choosing to listen instead of staying silent, to face instead of run, to take even one small step. And in that step, you break free from the old cycle. Think of this as an invitation, not from anyone else, but from your own soul. An invitation to return, to live, to stop wasting your life. And only you can know the answer. Ask yourself right now, what must I release to stop living in pretense? Because only when you let go are you truly free. And once the soul awakens, nothing can bind you again. Perhaps throughout these 7 stages of the journey, you have come to realize a simple but difficult truth. No one can save you but yourself. No pill, no formula, no template can replace the bravest decision of all to stop, to listen, and to return to your true self. Modern life makes us believe that our worth lies in our ability to adapt, to keep functioning, to keep producing, to keep enduring. But if all we do is exist, repeat, and pretend, we are quietly wasting the one gift that cannot be replaced, a life that is truly lived. The path ahead may feel lonely. It may take from you things you once thought were everything. But remember this, that loneliness is not a sign you are going the wrong way. It is a sign you are shedding your false layers and moving closer to your soul. And that is where real healing begins. Hold this phrase close to your heart. The greatest privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The highest privilege is not achieving what others expect of you, but living as your true self. So right now, do not wait another day. Do not let your life slip away in numbness. Begin with a small step, but a real one. A confession, a decision, an action. Because the moment you begin, you prove that you are choosing to live, not just to exist. And when your soul awakens, you will know. Not a single moment was wasted, as long as you dared to live true. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this story. If this message touched your heart, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss the next journey we take together. Your support means the world to me.